Welcome back to the channel, tennis fans. Today, we are diving deep into a moment that has absolutely shaken the foundations of the tennis world. If you were anywhere near a screen, or frankly, anywhere near a tennis court over the last few days, you already know exactly what we're going to talk about. The whole world shouted. And I mean that quite literally. The echo of the crowd at the Stuttgart Open is still ringing in our ears, and the shockwaves are still reverberating across every corner of the globe. We are, of course, talking about the monumental, jaw-dropping rematch between the rising Philippine sensation, Alexandra Eala, and the Italian powerhouse, the world number 8, Jasmine Paolini. This was not just a tennis match. This was a statement. This was a battle of wills, a clash of generations, and a masterclass in tactical brilliance and raw, unadulterated passion. When you look at the landscape of the Women's Tennis Association right now, it is incredibly competitive. But moments like these, matches like this one in Stuttgart, remind us why we are so utterly obsessed with this sport. Think about the context here. Alexandra Eala, a young woman who has carried the weight of an entire nation on her shoulders since she first burst onto the scene out of the Rafa Nadal Academy, walked into the Porsche Tennis Grand Prix arena with a massive point to prove. And on the other side of the net stood Jasmine Paolini, world number 8. A seasoned veteran of the tour, a player known for her lightning-fast footwork, her heavy topspin, and her sheer grit. Paolini is not someone you just beat. She is someone you have to go to war with. And Eala knew this better than anyone, because she had already done the impossible just a couple of months ago in Dubai. Let us rewind for just a second to set the stage for why the Stuttgart rematch was the most anticipated match of the month. Back in February, at the Dubai Duty-Free Tennis Championships, Eala shocked everyone. She took out Paolini in straight sets, 6-1, 7-6. It was a masterclass. But the narrative heading into Stuttgart was completely different. The critics said Dubai was a fluke. They said Paolini was exhausted, that she was flat, that she was distracted by her doubles campaign. They said that once Paolini got her footing on the European clay, her natural habitat, things would be entirely different. The pressure on Eala was immense. She had recently dropped 17 spots in the WTA rankings after a tough loss to Karolina Machova in Miami, and then suffered a heartbreak in Linz, blowing a 5-1 lead in the second set against Jelena Ostapenko. The narrative was shifting. People were asking if Eala had hit a wall. And then came the twist of fate. Eala was initially supposed to grind her way through the brutal qualifying rounds here in Stuttgart. But just days before the tournament, the reigning Olympic gold medalist Qin Wenjing was forced to withdraw due to injury. In a stroke of absolute serendipity, Eala was bumped directly into the main draw. She avoided the energy-sapping qualifiers. She got a direct ticket to the big stage. And who was waiting for her in the stacked field? Mira Andreeva, Jelena Ostapenko, and yes, Jasmine Paolini. The tennis gods had spoken, and they demanded a rematch. So when these two stepped onto the indoor clay courts of the tennis sport Halle, the atmosphere was electric. You could cut the tension with a knife. The fans in Germany, who have seen legends like Tracy Austin lift the trophy in this very tournament since its inception in 1978, knew they were witnessing something special. When the first ball was struck, the silence in the arena was deafening, only to be shattered by the thunderous roar of the crowd after every single rally. The whole world shouted because what we witnessed was not just a repeat of Dubai. It was an evolution. It was Alexandra Eala proving that she belongs in the upper echelon of women's tennis. And it was Jasmine Paolini fighting like a lioness to defend her top 10 status. This was a match that had absolutely everything. Blistering forehands, delicate drop shots, momentum swings that would give you whiplash, and a level of mental fortitude that you simply cannot teach. In this deep dive, we're going to break down every single aspect of this rivalry in this specific match. We're going to look at the tactical adjustments both players made. We are going to analyze Paolini's struggles and Eala's triumphs. We are going to explore the psychological warfare that took place between the lines, and we will discuss exactly what this means for the rest of the 2026 season. Grab a drink, settle in, because this is going to be an extensive, no-holds-barred analysis of the match that made the whole world shout. To truly understand the magnitude of this rematch, we have to peel back the layers of both athletes and examine exactly what they brought to the court in Stuttgart. Let us start by looking at the world number 8, Jasmine Paolini. The Italian's rise to the top 10 has been nothing short of inspirational. In a sport that often celebrates teenage prodigies, Paolini is a quintessential late bloomer. She spent years grinding on the ITF circuit, slowly climbing the rankings, refining her game, and building a physical engine that is frankly unmatched by most players on the tour. Paolini stands at just 5 feet 4 inches, but what she lacks in height, she more than makes up for in explosive speed, incredible court coverage, and a heavy, penetrating forehand that can push opponents well behind the baseline. Over the past 2 seasons, we have seen her transform from a solid top 50 player into a legitimate Grand Slam threat. She has established herself as a permanent fixture in the top 10, backed by deep runs in major tournaments and a fiercely competitive spirit. However, the beginning of the 2026 season has not been entirely smooth sailing for the Italian. Following a somewhat flat performance at the Australian Open, where analysts noted a distinct lack of her usual spark and aggressive net play, questions began to circulate about her workload. Paolini has been juggling a highly successful doubles career alongside her compatriot Sarah Errani. While that partnership has brought her immense joy and success, playing both disciplines at the highest level takes a physical and emotional toll. Fans and pundits alike have noticed moments where she looked fatigued, or, as some observers noted, simply gray. When she stepped onto the court against Eala in Dubai back in February, that fatigue seemed evident. In that match, Paolini was uncharacteristically passive in the first set, dropping at 6-1 before mounting a desperate comeback in the second. She ultimately lost the tiebreak 7-5. That loss stung. It was a massive upset, and for a top 10 player, losing to an unseeded teenager is always a bitter pill to swallow. Coming into Stuttgart, Paolini had a massive chip on her shoulder. She needed to prove that Dubai was an anomaly. She needed to reassert her dominance on the clay, a surface where her heavy topspin and sliding defensive skills naturally excel out on the other side of the net. We have Alexandra Eala. The trajectory of this young woman's career is fascinating, and the weight of expectation she carries is staggering. As the brightest tennis hope in the Philippines, Eala does not just play for herself. She plays for millions of fans back home who track her every single move, her every single match, and her every single point. Graduating from prestigious Rafa Nadal Academy, Eala has been ingrained with clay court pedigree from a very young age. Being a left-hander gives her a distinct natural advantage. The lefty slice serve out wide on the ad court, the heavy cross-court forehand that rips into a right-handed opponent's backhand. These are weapons that have troubled the best in the game. But the transition from junior world number 2 and junior Grand Slam champion to a consistent force on the senior WTA Tour is notoriously difficult. Before the unexpected withdrawal of Qin Wenjing, Eala's 2026 season had been a roller coaster of high highs and frustrating lows. Yes, she had that spectacular win over Paolini in Dubai, which was her first top 10 victory since the Miami Open the previous year. But that high was quickly followed by a brutal reality check. She suffered a tough loss to Karolina Machova in Miami, which sent her tumbling 17 spots down the rankings. And then, just weeks before Stuttgart, she endured a heart-wrenching defeat at the Linz Open against Jelena Ostapenko. In that match, Eala played brilliantly to take a 5-1 lead in the second set, only to completely lose focus and drop the set 7-5, eventually bowing out of the tournament. That pattern, building a lead and then tensing up to let the opponent back in, was a glaring vulnerability that Paolini and her coaching team undoubtedly studied. Eala arrived in Stuttgart knowing she had the tools to beat the world's best, but wrestling with the mental demons of closing out matches when the pressure reaches its absolute peak. So, the stage was set. The Porsche Tennis Grand Prix in Stuttgart is one of the most unique stops on the WTA Tour. It is played on indoor red clay. Let me explain why that is so crucial. Traditional outdoor clay courts, like those at Roland Garros, are heavily influenced by weather. Wind, sun, and humidity change how the ball bounces and how the court plays. But in Stuttgart, the indoor environment creates a controlled, pristine condition. The clay is laid over a wooden base, making it significantly faster and slicker than normal clay courts. The ball skids more. It stays lower on slices. You cannot just rely on heavy, looping topspin by yourself time. You have to take the ball early and flatten out your shots when the opportunity arises. When the umpire called time and the rematch began, the tactical battle was immediately apparent. Paolini, clearly determined not to repeat the mistakes of Dubai, came out swinging. She did not wait for Eala to make errors. The Italian hugged the baseline, using her extraordinary footwork to run around her backhand and dictate play with her forehand. She targeted Eala's weaker wing, trying to pin the young Filipina into the ad-court corner. Eala, however, was ready. The work she had put in after the Lin's collapse was evident. Instead of retreating, Eala absorbed Paolini's pace beautifully. She utilized her left-handed advantage to perfection, hitting high, heavy balls deep into Paolini's backhand side, preventing the Italian from stepping into the court. The rallies were punishing. We are talking about brutal, lungs-burning, 20 to 30 shot exchanges where neither player was willing to concede an inch. Eala's first serve, which had been a massive weapon for her in Dubai, where she won 73% of her first serve points, was under immense pressure. Paolini was reading the toss much better this time around, stepping inside the baseline on the second serve to take the ball early and apply immediate pressure. But Eala showed a level of maturity that we had not seen consistently before. When she found herself down break points, instead of rushing and committing unforced errors, she dialed in her focus. She found the corners. She hit an exquisite drop shot on a crucial break point in the first set that completely wrong-footed Paolini, showcasing a delicate touch disguised beautifully behind her aggressive baseline setup. The psychological warfare was just as intense as the physical exertion. You could see it in their body language. Paolini, usually so animated, was locked in, her jaw set, her eyes burning with intensity. She was constantly looking to her box, firing herself up with every winner. Eala, conversely, was a picture of ice-cold concentration. She lacked the outward expressions of joy or frustration, opting instead for a tunnel-vision focus. Every time Paolini tried to shift the momentum, Eala had an answer. When the Italian threw in high looping moonballs to disrupt the rhythm, Eala did not panic. She stepped in, took the ball out of the air with swinging volleys, and drove it down the line. It was a tactical masterclass in dealing with variety. But let us talk about the specific dynamics that made the entire world shout. In modern tennis, it is rarely just about who hits the ball harder. It is about who plays the big points better. In their previous encounter, Eala fumbled while serving for the match, allowing Paolini a glimmer of hope before shutting the door in the tiebreak. In Stuttgart, as the match stretched into its critical phases, the ghosts of that Dubai match and the Lin's collapse were hovering right over the court. The tension in the stadium was palpable. Every spectator was holding their breath. The silence between points was so heavy you could hear the scuffing of their shoes on the slick clay. When it came down the wire, it was a test of sheer nerve. Paolini threw everything she had at Eala. She hit blistering inside-out forehands that painted the lines. She scrambled to retrieve impossible drop shots, flicking them back with angles that defied physics. But Alexandra Eala refused a break. The defining moment, the sequence that will be replayed on highlight reels for years to come, was a testament to Eala's evolution. Facing an onslaught from a world number 8 who was absolutely determined not to lose twice in a row, Eala produced a level of shot-making that transcended her ranking. On the crucial points, she trusted her heavy left-handed forehand down the line, a shot that requires immense courage because the margin for error is so incredibly small over the highest part of the net. She hit it with vicious topspin, pushing Paolini out court, and then calmly moved forward to put away the volley. The roar of the crowd at the conclusion of this epic battle was not just a reaction to a great point. It was a collective release of hours of built-up tension. It was a recognition of a young star truly arriving on the grandest stage, and the acknowledgement of a veteran who fought with the heart of a champion. The whole world shouted because we witnessed a match that elevated the sport. We saw a young woman from the Philippines look a top 10 player in the eyes on a surface that demands physical perfection and prove that her previous victory was no fluke. We saw Jasmine Paolini display the grit that earned her a spot among the elite, even in the face of relentless pressure. This match was a brutal, beautiful demonstration of everything we love about women's tennis. It was a chess match played at 100 miles an hour, requiring the stamina of a marathon runner and the precision of a surgeon. Let us break down the statistics and the micro-tactics even further, because to simply call this a great match does not do justice to the chess game that unfolded. When you look at Eala's performance, the improvement in her return game is what truly stands out. Paolini is not known for having the biggest serve on the tour, but she uses placement and kick exceptionally well to open up the court. In Dubai, Eala was able to feast on Paolini's second serve. In Stuttgart, Paolini tried to counter this by serving a higher percentage of first serves, taking some pace off, but prioritizing depth and location. However, Eala adjusted brilliantly. She stood a half step further back on the first serve, giving herself a fraction of a second more to read the spin, but then she aggressively stepped inside the baseline on the second serve returns. By taking the ball so early on the return, Eala essentially robbed Paolini of her recovery time. Before Paolini could even split step and find her balance in the center of the court, Eala's return was already skidding deep into her shoelaces. This constant pressure on the serve forced Paolini to overplay. The Italian knew that if she hit a neutral ball, Eala would step in and dictate. Consequently, we saw Paolini going for lines she normally would not aim for so early in the rally. This led to a slight increase in Paolini's unforced error count, but it was forced by Eala's relentless depth. On the flip side, Eala's own service games were a fascinating study in pattern disruption. Lefties naturally loved to slide her out wide on the ad court, pulling the right-hander off the court to open up the down-the-line forehand. Paolini, knowing this, was cheating slightly to her right, anticipating that exact serve. Eala's coaching team clearly did their homework, because time and time again on crucial points, Eala would hit a heavy kick serve straight down the tee, wrong-footing Paolini entirely. It was a bold strategy, requiring perfect execution, but it paid massive dividends. Furthermore, we must discuss the physicality of the match. The indoor clay of Stuttgart demands dynamic movement. You have to be able to slide into your shots to maintain balance. But because the surface is faster than traditional clay, the recovery back to the center has to be explosive. Paolini is arguably one of the best movers on clay in the world. Her low center of gravity allows her to change direction seamlessly. But Eala, who is taller, showed remarkable improvement in her lateral movement. She was not just defending. She was defending with purpose. When Paolini hit a great offensive shot, Eala did not just float the ball back. She hit neutralizing slices deep into the middle of the court, giving herself time to recover and forcing Paolini to generate her own pace all over again. This defensive resilience was profoundly frustrating for Paolini, who is used to opponents crumbling under her heavy, sustained topspin barges. The mental stamina required to maintain this level of execution over the course of the match is staggering. Remember, Eala is still only 20 years old. To have the tactical clarity to recognize when a pattern is not working and the courage to change it against a top 10 player speaks volumes about her maturation. In previous tournaments, as we saw in Linz, when things got tight, Eala tended to rush. She would go for winners too early in the rally. Here in Stuttgart, she embraced the grind. She accepted that she might have to hit 5, 6, or 7 great shots to win a single point. She matched Paolini's intensity, rally for rally, breath for breath. And when the defining moments arrived, Eala was the one who played with clarity, while Paolini, weighed down by the pressure of avoiding a second consecutive defeat to the same opponent, tightened up just a fraction. That fraction of a second, that tiny millimeter of hesitation, is all it takes at this elite level of the sport. This deep dive reveals that this was not just a victory of superior shot-making. It was a victory of superior strategy, adaptability, and emotional control. Eala dismantled the narrative that her Dubai win was a fluke, and she did it on European clay, a surface where European veterans usually dominate. She proved that her game translates beautifully to the indoor dirt, and she signaled to the entire locker room that she is no longer just a promising prospect. She is a present-day threat. As we wrap up this extensive analysis, we have to look at the broader implications of what this match means for the landscape of women's tennis moving forward in this 2026 season. The echoes of Stuttgart are going to resonate far beyond the confines of Germany. For Jasmine Paolini, this result is a bitter pill to swallow, but it is also a critical wake-up call. The Italian is far too talented and works far too hard to let this derail her season. However, it forces her and her team to go back to the drawing board. As the tour shifts toward the massive outdoor clay events in Madrid, Rome, and eventually the climax at Roland Garros, Paolini must figure out how to counter the aggressive, early ball striking that Eala utilized so effectively. She needs to find a way to dictate play earlier in the rallies, and perhaps inject more variety into her game to prevent opponents from locking into a rhythm against her heavy topspin. Whether she needs to reevaluate her grueling schedule, perhaps dialing back slightly on the doubles with Sarah Errani to preserve her physical and mental reserves for singles, is a conversation her camp will undoubtedly be having. Paolini has the heart of a lion, and you can absolutely bet that she will bounce back from this, but the vulnerability has been exposed, and the rest of the tour is paying close attention. For Alexandra Eala, the sky is truly the limit right now. This match was a definitive proof that she has the arsenal, the stamina, and crucially, the mental fortitude to hang with and defeat the absolute best in the world. The whole world shouted because they recognized the birth of a genuine superstar. By securing this victory, Eala not only validates her unbelievable performance in Dubai, but also erases the lingering doubts that crept in after her stumbles in Miami and Linz. This direct entry into the Stuttgart main draw, which began as a lucky break due to Qin Wenjing's unfortunate injury, has been transformed by Eala into a career-defining moment. The points she secures here will help her catapult back up the rankings, undoing the damage of the past few weeks, and putting her squarely back on track towards breaking into the top 20 and beyond. But more than the rankings, it is the sheer confidence she will take from this victory that is invaluable. When you can walk onto an indoor clay court in Europe, face a top 10 player who is desperate for revenge, and systematically dismantle their game plan, you begin to believe that you are truly unstoppable. For the millions of fans in the Philippines and across Southeast Asia, Eala is carrying the torch. She is putting a region not traditionally known for tennis dominance squarely on the map, inspiring a completely new generation of young athletes who are watching her journey and realizing that greatness is possible. She is no longer just an underdog hoping for a good run. She is a fierce competitor who expects to win when she steps onto court, regardless of who is standing on the other side of the net. The beauty of tennis is that the story never truly ends. This Stuttgart rematch was an incredible chapter, but the season is long, and the battles will only get harder. The target on Eala's back is now bigger than ever. Opponents will study this tape just as meticulously as we have today. They will look for weaknesses. They will adjust their tactics, and Eala will have to continue evolving if she wants to stay ahead of the pack. But if her performance in Germany is any indication, she is more than ready for the challenge. She has the work ethic of her mentors at the Rafa Nadal Academy, the passion of the nation behind her, and a game that is terrifyingly complete for someone her age. I want to turn it over to you, the viewers. What did you make of this monumental rematch? Were you as shocked by Eala's composure as I was? Or did you see this coming after her performance in Dubai? What adjustments do you think Jasmine Paolini needs to make heading into the heart of the clay court season? And realistically, how far do you think Alexandra Eala can go this year? Drop your thoughts, your tactical breakdowns, and your bold predictions in the comments section below. I read every single one of them, and I love continuing the debate with you all. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please do me a massive favor and hit that like button. It truly helps the channel grow and allows us to keep bringing you this level of extensive, detailed tennis analysis. If you have not already, hit subscribe and turn on those notification bells so you never miss a breakdown. The clay court season is just heating up, and we are going to be here covering every massive upset, every tactical masterpiece, and every match that makes the whole world shout. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for your incredible support, and I will see you all in the next video.